Hey guys, how you doing? It's me, your host, Jason Scott. I'm really happy you guys stopped by. You know, I really didn't want to get this show started off on kind of a negative vibe, but there's something that I really got to bring up. So I've just recently started playing a new game. It's called Horizon Zero Dawn, and I know this isn't a game review show per se. It's got a lot of different aspects of gamer culture and all that other kind of stuff. But I think it's important that we also get kind of some of the other aspects of gaming that go by the wayside. I really wanted to make mention of this particular one because according to the Polygon, basically Horizon Zero Dawn recently received criticism for its portrayal of different tribes represented in the game, and 4 words used to describe these people: savages, braves, primals, and tribes. Let's see. A Native American writer called out the game in a Medium essay for the descriptive words. They talk about cultural appropriation. God. I mean, does anybody else just, as soon as somebody starts talking about cultural appropriation, all of a sudden it's just, oh, there's part of me, there is something inside of me that just dies. I mean, I understand that there are some aspects about your culture, about gaming culture, and about something about your history and your heritage that you want to kind of keep to yourself, that you want to be special, that you want to be a part of you. But there's this whole nonsense about cultural appropriation. I mean, come on. The thing of it is the moment you start to kind of get drilled down a little bit into that, all of a sudden you start having to ask yourself, well, who really culturally appropriated from who? And not to mention, as long as it's done with respect, that's my only thought. It's like if you I mean, I had a Native American friend of mine that was complaining that, oh yeah, some teen models were basically showing off war bonnets and stuff. And it's like, dude, I totally understand that. That was, that's kind of disrespectful. But you know what? If you're being respectful, and if you're being in here in the article, it talks about how the use of certain words is just considered inherently degrading and disrespectful. It's like, oh, come on. Really? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And if you're respectful of a culture as you basically, portray these things in a game, then you should be able to do that. And that's this whole cultural appropriation thing is really just, if you ask me, it's gotten out of hand. I mean, you talk about cornrows or, oh, well, cultural appropriation if you see a white guy in cornrows. It's like, oh, really? Really? All right, stop and think for just a second. Where did the cornrows? You guys didn't come up with cornrows. This was something that was seen on back in Roman times. Guys keep their hair out of it, and they had thicker hair. They had hair that was more substantial, so they put it into these rows so that it essentially was held back and out of the way when it came time for combat. I mean, come on. So, at the end of the day, who's really stealing from who? So I guess what I really wanted to that was my big thing on it. And they even say, and one of the rebuttals to that, it's like, well, hey, look, the cultural references and stuff like that is almost more akin to Viking culture than Native American. And I kind of have to agree. I mean, if you look at the storyline that's in Zero Dawn, it kind of strikes you more as like a Viking saga than it is, because Native Americans, they didn't have sagas. They didn't necessarily have. They had myths. They had stories that they used to tell, but not in the venue of the saga. So stop. Stop with the whole cultural appropriation garbage. It's not really playing well with anybody, and all it does is it makes you look silly. Okay. Now that said, I just had to kind of get that out of the way. And I didn't want my first this first show to basically be all about that. But I felt that it was important that needed to be said. Okay, well, look, that being said, I wanted to say a little bit about this game and how it's sort of kind of combines into this whole general theme that's really starting to kind of play itself out in a lot of different ways. You see, like, for instance, there's a lot of, in the role-playing game community, in like the tabletop and things like that, there's a lot of new role-playing games that are coming out that revolve a lot around the post-apocalypse. Okay, and the tired notion that the end is going to come by nuclear bombs. Yeah, it's going to come, nuclear bombs going to blow everybody up. And it's just like, you kind of listen to that and you kind of roll your eyes a little bit. And it's just like, well, look, the only threat of nuclear annihilation right now, I mean, North Korea's, they're still batshit crazy, but they've always been batshit crazy. But I mean, yeah, they'll launch a rogue rocket that'll nuke San Francisco or something, but like that's absolute positively worst case scenario. And, that's not talking about the end of all life on Earth, that, like it used to be back in the old Cold War days, the bad old days of Cold War Russia. So you listen to that and it rings a little hollow. But one of the things that I wanted to point out about Zero Point was the eerie, scary believability of the nightmare scenario. I mean, let's face it, we're all, everywhere I look and I see right now, games are the ways, in a lot of ways, that a society will kind of deal with some of the harder subjects. It kind of, before it was Star Trek episodes, and some of these, they would address certain kind of like scary subjects that they don't want to openly talk about. It's like, hey, what happens if like robots become better than us and like start to, like, I don't know, kill us and take over? Oh, well, yeah, we don't want to talk about that. So they would put it into, there was this other alien race that basically got, built robots and they took control of their society and like killed them all. And it's like, there was a distance there. But I will hand it to the writers of Zero Point, and that they didn't shy away from that. They said, no, we're going to make this, we're going to like basically look at this, and we're going to look at the way things are going today and look at how our various societies and some of the collision courses that we are currently engaged in, and we're not going to shy away from that. We're going to basically embrace it. And, my hat's off to them in that respect, because there's a certain bravery that comes with that. There's a certain bravery that comes with not being afraid to just say, screw it, this is what happens. And it doesn't matter whether or not you feel uncomfortable. It doesn't matter whether or not, if it's kind of creepy and it's like, oh, geez, it's the nightmare scenario is all too plausible. It's all too possible, as opposed to, nuclear bombs basically killed everybody. And please, no. And I'm not gonna ruin it any more than I already have, so don't worry. But suffice to say, as you start to get the big reveal, the terrible truth of that particular game, is something that resonates very well. And I wouldn't be surprised if you started to see more games, tabletops and all these different like mediums started to go in that direction, in terms of like, hey, maybe striking a little bit close to home, because back in the day you had Star Trek and they would do that, but nowadays, not so much. So I'm really, really happy with that. I suppose I should say a few words, since I've made such a mention about Zero Dawn. So I will say this. This is one of the most beautiful games that I've ever seen. The controls are kind of complex. They're a little wonky. In comparison, it's very much as kind of a stealth game, but it's also a sniper game. And this is not an open combat sort of game where, if you just like charge into combat and like balls to the wall, then you are going to have a very difficult time with this. But And so as a result, sometimes the scenarios and some of the situations that you find yourself in are very challenging, unusually so, and not for the reasons I think that the game makers intended. But overall, I would rate this game very, very high in terms of its playability, the lifeless or the likeness, the sense of the uncanny, the stretching and crossing over the uncanny valley is just amazing. So that was what I wanted to talk about. I think it's a really good game, and I would highly recommend it. If nothing else, it gives you as a gamer, as a role player, as a content creator, it gives you tremendous amounts of inspiration. And so if you get a chance to, I would highly check it out. And yeah, basically keep an eye out, because the events and the things that it brings up are both very scary, and they're just all too possible. So yeah, it's a great game. You guys should check it out.